David Gravel takes the Doty. The big week at Eldora starts tonight. We had more RTJ versus Hudson O'Neal and sprint car teams hiding weight in nerf bars and bumpers. We'll talk about it. Let's go. It's Wednesday, July 17th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is DIRTRACKR Daily presented by Kubota Genuine Parts. Real quick off the top today, if you like what we do here every day, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel or podcast. We are less than 100 subscribers away from 33K on YouTube, and I think we could break through that today. Remember, you can catch full episodes of the daily 5 days a week on YouTube, the DIRTRACKR Facebook page, and all major podcast platforms. Brad Doty Classic last night at Attica for the World of Outlaws sprint cars. As expected, solid field of 46 sprint cars in the pit area. I was a bit surprised there weren't more high limit teams in attendance. We had basically just Corey Day and Zeb Wise plus Kyle Larson. I know we're about to have 4 straight days at Eldora and teams are saving their equipment and all of that, but of the 16 full-time teams, I thought we'd have more than just those two. Especially with it being the Doty and a solid 15K to win show, 1,200 to start kind of deal. The feature turned into a really fun battle between Carson Macedo, David Gravel, and Kyle Larson, with Gravel eventually coming out on top for his first Attica win since 2021. He also became the first driver to double-digit outlaw victories on the season. Behind him, Donny Schatz somehow charged through the field to second with the nose wing, about knocked off the TSR 15. It was pretty wild to actually watch him drive by Kyle Larson that way. Larson finished third after leading a single lap and really just missing out on his third straight Doty win. And Macedo was fourth after leading laps early. This was the last time the Outlaw standings will have any sort of possible changes this week, as the Kings Royal will be show at points only with a differing format. Right now, Gravel still leads, Schatz second, Macedo third. The next 2 days at Eldora are high limit shows, and it looks like all 11 full-time Outlaw teams will participate and burn 2 freebies. Kelby Watt is racing, but the Bill Rose 6 is not on the entry list for the next 2 nights. They're really the only exception here. A hat tip as well to Dazen Persley on his first career Outlaw top 10 finish driving for Brandon Eikenberry, and Cale Thomas was the highest finishing Ohio regular. He went 23rd to 11th. Looking ahead to tonight, 64 cars, I believe, on the pre-entry list, and a split field program coming up. We'll have 2 25-lap features in action tonight. We'll set heat race lineups for Thursday. Everything you've come to know about Eldora formats is in play. That includes inverts, the Wheel of Misfortune, all of that. I don't know offhand how High Limit will handle championship points for these next 2 nights, but my guess would be these are show-up points for them as well, so I wouldn't expect any changes in the High Limit standings. Flow Racing will have live streams for the 2 Kubota High Limit nights at Eldora, and things will flip to Dirt Vision for Friday and Saturday. Before we move on, I want to jump back here. There was an interesting World of Outlaws rules bulletin that came out this week, and it ties back into something we talked about not long ago. This bulletin covers 2 areas, including an amendment about engine heat. Teams are not allowed to push cars for the purpose of starting the engine without approval and supervision of Outlaw officials. This is a safety rule, clearly in response to something that likely happened recently. I don't know what the specific event was, but a rule like this isn't added just offhand. And the other area that was addressed was bolt-on weight. If you remember back to a few weeks ago around the bolt-on weight situation with the USAC sprint cars at Macon, I told you guys that this was an area under scrutiny in winged sprint car racing as well. There were comments made at a Knoxville weekly drivers meeting, and I was told that Outlaw officials had been making the rounds looking at some cars. Adding additional weight was previously allowed by the Outlaw rulebook, but it was a bit of a judgment by officials sort of way. But now that rule has been clarified. There's a provision about the type of mounting bolts necessary for weight pieces. The number of bolts and the type of bolts is specific for the amount of weight you're putting on the car. Also added was language about the weight pieces being painted white, and that pieces and how they are mounted must be approved by officials. If bolt-on weight falls off during on-track action, that team will be disqualified. And this is an important note because I've been told this did happen in a recent crash with a national tour, that a car crashed and weight came off of the car. The rules bulletin wasn't done there though. And it's this other part about bolt-on weight that gives us a clear picture about how some teams were adding additional weight and maybe attempting to keep it quiet. Bumpers and nerf bars must be made of magnetic steel tubing and securely bolted to the chassis. That's now been added. Also, the tubing has to be between 65 thousandths and 95 thousandths thick. And here's the key part, not filled for the purpose of adding weight. So clearly teams were filling those bumpers and nerf bars with material to add weight to specific parts of the car. Adding weight, certainly not a magic bullet for car setups, but it is definitely an area where handling can be helped. This is the right move, though, from Outlaw officials, as we don't need chunks of weight flying off of cars and potentially hurting anyone. You can see the full rules bulletin for yourself over at dirtcar.com/rules. Another sprint car action last night. Colby Copeland was a Sprint Car Challenge Tour winner over Corbin Ruschenberg and Andy Forsberg at Coos Bay. Their speed week continues tonight with a stop at Douglas County Speedway in Roseburg, Oregon. At Shelby County in Iowa, the busy stretch continued on Tuesday for the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, and again, things came down to Hudson O'Neal and Ricky Thornton Jr. It was a similar ending with O'Neal coming out on top and RTJ finishing second after leading laps. If these two teams are just going to continue throwing haymakers at each other for the rest of the season, and there being drama and this close racing, all of this, count me in. And I know we've been talking a lot about these two drivers and teams, but I just don't know how you ignore all of what's been going on here. It's been great theater. It's been great racing. O'Neal did get booed again in victory lane, so that bad guy stuff doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon. I also want to address something I've seen a bunch of fans say, especially in recent days, and that's that O'Neal stole RTJ's ride. To be clear and fair here, it wasn't RTJ's ride. It's Todd Burns' ride. Whether you agree or not with Thornton losing the seat is one thing, but nothing was stolen. Todd Burns is the car owner, and he can make whatever decisions he wants. So however this all went down, the ride was not stolen. Behind the top two, Garrett Alberson rounded out the night's podium. I really want to see that 58 car in victory lane here soon. He's been close so many times, it just finally needs to happen. In the Lucas standings, we have had a change in that top four. RTJ, Jonathan Davenport, Devin Moran still 1 through 3, but back-to-back wins now has Huddy up to 4th around Tim McCready. McCready was in the hot pit at one point last night. He ended up 12th. It was his first finish outside the top 10 since Wheatland in May. If O'Neal keeps up this pace, and I think it could, I think that's likely, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for McCready and Rocket, or really anyone else for that matter, to find their way into this championship fight. Lucas teams are off today with the Silver Dollar Nationals at Huset's beginning on Thursday. Another late model action last night. Dale McDowell won again with the Southern Nationals. He led flag to flag at I-75. He topped Donald McIntosh and Corey Hedgecock. McIntosh nearly had the lead at one point, but the move was negated by a caution, and he couldn't make a move on McDowell after that. The Southern Nationals continue on Thursday at Sonoya. Looking around the other dirt racing podcasts this week, Wing Nation has Rico Abreu and Donny Schatz. Passing Points has Clinton Boyles. Hoagie's Garage has Caleb Johnson. Caution Free has Carl Bowser, and there are new episodes of The Dirt Reporters, Dirt Track Confessions, The Dirt Nerds, Dirt Tracks and Rib Racks, Racing Roundup, Getting Up to Speed, and The Drivers Project. To see all of these shows, all of the episodes, stop by dirttracker.com/podcasts. All right, that's it for the Daily Show for this Wednesday. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day out there. We will see you right back here tomorrow.